Sending an invoice. It sounds so simple, right? You make a sale, you send a bill. Done. But what happens when you're a giant global company with thousands of customers, and every single one of them has their own special demands? Well, let's dive into this, because what seems like a simple task on the surface is actually hiding an entire universe of complexity.
This sentence, this right here, is where our whole story kicks off. This isn't just a simple business request. It's the beginning of a massive puzzle for an expert consultant. It's the kind of thing that looks totally straightforward until you start pulling on the thread and you realize it's connected to, well, everything. Let me show you what this actually looks like in the real world.
Okay, first up, let's meet customer A. They're a big retailer. All they want is one simple summarized PDF invoice. And they want it sent to a generic accounts payable email. Easy enough, right? This is our baseline, our starting point. But as you can probably guess, it doesn't stay this simple for long.
Now this is where it starts to get tricky. Customer B, a wholesaler, needs a much more detailed invoice with every single line item. Not only that, it has to be in German, and it needs to go to 3 separate people, one in the to field, one CC'd, and another one BCC'd. All of a sudden, our simple little model is completely broken.
And boom, here's the final piece of this puzzle. Customer C is an internal transaction between 2 parts of the same company. They don't even want a PDF. They need a raw data file that their system can read directly. Oh, but wait, a PDF copy also has to be created and sent over to the internal sales rep for their own records. So now we're juggling multiple formats, multiple destinations, and both internal and external rules. It's a lot.
So how in the world does an expert untangle a web like this? We're going to walk you through their exact process. We'll start with understanding the request, then choosing the right tools, building the solution from the ground up, adding all the custom logic, figuring out how to fix it when it breaks, and finally, uncovering the real secret to making a project like this actually work.
You see, a consultant's first job here isn't just about clicking buttons in a system. It's about being a bridge, a translator. They have to design a solution that makes sense to everybody involved, from the sales team who made the deal, to the IT developers writing the code, and the system admins who have to keep the whole thing running.
Okay, so before anyone can even think about building this, there's a huge decision to make. It's a fundamental fork in the road that's going to determine the entire path of the project. Do you go with the classic, time-tested engine, or do you use the newer, more modern approach?
So on one hand, you've got the classic NAist engine. Think of it as the traditional workhorse. It's been around forever, it's super customizable, and it's in most systems. On the other hand, you have the more modern BRF Plus engine, which is all about rules. Now for this explainer, we're going to focus on the classic way, because honestly, that's where the most complex, the gnarliest, and the most interesting custom challenges really come to life. A truly great solution doesn't start with code. It starts with a smart, solid foundation. You can think of this phase as building the skeleton of the system. And if you get that skeleton wrong, it doesn't matter how much muscle or brains you try to add later, it's just never going to work right.
And here's the secret sauce. A rookie might create a new, separate rule for every single customer. You can imagine what a tangled mess that becomes, right? But an expert uses what's called the one output type strategy. They build a single, super flexible rule and then use this clever hierarchy, an access sequence, to find the right logic. It's designed to look for the most specific rule first, like one just for customer B. And if it finds a match, that little exclusive flag tells it, hey, you're done, stop looking. It's just so elegant and efficient.
All right, our skeleton is in place. It's strong. Now it's time to add the muscles in the brain. This is where the developers come in. It's the coding phase, where we handle all those really complex custom requests that the standard setup just can't handle on its own.
And right here, this is the first rule of expert development. It's a principle that is absolutely non-negotiable. You never, ever touch the standard core program. It's kind of like renovating a house. You can knock down all the interior walls you want, but you do not touch the foundation. You always work on a custom copy. That way, you protect the stability of the entire system.
So, remember our friend customer B, the one who needed those 3 different emails? This might look technically scary, but look at how an expert breaks it down into simple, logical steps. The custom code just finds the invoice, looks up that customer's special rules, builds that to, CC, and BCC list, and then hands it off to a specialized service that knows exactly how to create and send the email.
So where does that email actually go? It lands right here, in a place called Scott. The absolute easiest way to think about Scott is as the central post office for the entire SAP system. I mean, every single email from every department for every reason ends up in this one queue, just waiting for the mail truck, which is basically a background job, to come by and send them all out to the internet.
Of course, building the thing is really only half the battle. The job is not done when the code is written. The true measure of an expert is what happens next, in that critical phase of testing, troubleshooting, and figuring out what on earth to do when things inevitably go wrong.
And this is the question that gives project managers nightmares. You've built it, you've tested it, you think you're done, but then the business user comes to you and says, hey, the email didn't send. Or even worse, it failed, and I got this really cryptic error message. So what do you do now?
Well, an expert has a toolkit for this. They see patterns. They see a vague error like processing failed, and their brain immediately goes, I bet the customer's email address is missing from their main file. They hear about an email arriving with no attachment, and they know exactly which part of the code to look at. This isn't magic. It's just what experience looks like. And now we come to the final, and I think the most important piece of this entire puzzle. We've seen the configuration, we've seen the code, but the real secret to success in a project like this, it actually lies beyond the technical stuff.
Because, look, any good consultant can handle the 99% of standard, everyday cases. But what about that top 1%? You know, the really advanced stuff, like merging a signed delivery note into the invoice PDF, or automatically checking if an email address is even spelled right before you try to send to it. This is where true expertise is defined.
And this, right here, is a moral of the story. The ultimate complexity, the hardest part, isn't in the code or the settings. It's in the messy, unpredictable reality of business data and just planning for human error. The real secret is to build a tough, resilient solution, to always assume the data might be missing or wrong, and to code a safe fallback for when it inevitably is.
So we started this whole journey with one simple invoice, and we ended up finding a world of technical, logical, and human complexity, which really just leaves us with one final thought to take away with you. What's the simple task in your world? The one that everybody just takes for granted? Because if you look closely enough, I bet you'll find a pretty fascinating universe hidden inside too.